Welcome to Leadership Moments.
In every great leader's life, there are pivotal moments that shape their character, test their resilience, and awaken their vision.
Together, we'll uncover the invaluable lessons hidden within these transformative moments. Today, our guest is Christine Shook. Christine is the Director of Enterprise Architecture for Applications and Analytics at Consumers Energy. She is a talent cultivator, change leader, and teacher who is motivated by and passionate about challenging work that presents continuous learning opportunities. Christine has had a diverse range of roles in technology, utility, gas design, and an educator. Christine is a passionate advocate for women in technology, serving on the board of directors for the nonprofit Michigan Council of Women in Technology Foundation. She is also a member of the Detroit chapter of the Society of Information Management and volunteers for the SIM Rise We Build Character Leadership Program. Her passion for paying it forward also includes volunteering for Compassionate Ministries of Jackson County. Today, we are going to talk about the subtle ways senior leaders can make a huge impact in someone else's career. Let's jump in. So we are in the Caster studio live because Christine and I tried to do this multiple times over the normal podcast video and it wasn't working. So thank you, Christine, for driving here so we could do this live. I'm super excited. This is the first time we're recording in this studio live together. So you're the first one, so I appreciate that. But today we're going to talk about how other leaders have helped you and how important it is and the things that they do. And you and I have been talking about that, and your career has really accelerated in a wonderful way over the last few years. And when we were talking, you're like, it's really the other people that have helped you. Absolutely. And how important that is. And so one, we wanted to say there are one, for you to listen so you can learn and grow, but two, the impact that leaders truly do have on other leaders and helping them in their career development.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'd love for you to start with a story about maybe how this impacted you.
Awesome. I love this. So first, thank you so much for the opportunity for me to be able to share and really honor a lot of the leaders that you've named, and some I'm going to name by name today, to give them the recognition that they deserve, because they're not only making a difference in my life, but they're making a difference in the lives of a lot of people. And I have the honor today to share some of the stories of how they've impacted my life, but there's probably hundreds, if not thousands, of stories out there today. So I want to start with a leader that I've worked with quite a bit. Her name is Tamara Faber. Up until very recently, Tamara Faber was my vice president until she made a very brave decision to pivot her career completely, which that's a story and another entirely brand new episode, listeners. But she was a leader that excelled at a number of things, but namely giving timely feedback. And you've had podcast guests already who've talked about how important it is to give feedback.
Yes.
She excelled at that. And so I have a few different examples that I want to be able to share from that.
Bring it on.
Where it just made such a difference in me. So first of all, there was a situation where I was not her direct report at the time. And we were in a meeting with her team, with another senior leader, and I was there to present on a topic. At the time, I was very new in my role, dealing with a lot of imposter syndrome. And as I presented, felt okay, but then following that meeting, she immediately followed up with me, within an hour. And she sends me a Teams chat and she says, "Hey, are you open to some feedback?" And of course you're thinking, oh my gosh, what is she going to say? But immediately I respond, yes, of course, because I need to hear that feedback so I understand what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And she pointed out that I had the tendency to preface statements and responses with words like, well, I think we could, or I would say, maybe. So I was inserting language into my responses that were really undermining what I was trying to say, and probably worse, showing a lack of confidence, which there was truth to that at the time. And so by pointing that out, I became hyper aware of the words that I was saying and how it was impacting how I was showing up. And so I've been able to shift that, and I'm still learning, but shift that to say things more like, instead of, well, I think, take the well, I think out of it. This is the decision that I'm making, and these are the reasons why this is a good decision. Completely owning it.
Yes.
So that has made quite a big difference. And the second example, again, I was at a meeting with her. I was at, who else was there? My senior vice president was there, and then my executive director was also there. And it was the first meeting of this type with this particular audience. And I was nervous. I was really nervous. I didn't know what to expect. I knew going in what we were going to talk about, but I knew there was a lot that I didn't know. There was a lot of unknowns. And I recognized that I had a lot of gaps. Well, apparently in this meeting, I was very subdued. And if you know me, I'm not always very subdued. That was not me at all. And Tamara took the time to get to know me. So she knew coming out of that meeting, or even in that meeting, I was not being myself. And so again, within an hour of that meeting, and maybe it was even over the lunch hour, she reached out, one, to make sure, are you okay? Because I was so serious in the meeting. And after I let her know, no, I'm fine, I'm good, what's up? She pointed out, Tamara being Tamara, that wasn't you today. You were really serious. And that's not, I've seen you before. And not that I'm not serious, but just my demeanor was very serious. And so she pointed that out, and it made me reflect back on that and recognize that when I feel uncomfortable, or when I sense that lack of confidence, that I have that tendency to draw back and pull back and maybe not be as authentic as I would typically be. So that helped me better prepare going into, recognize that, and then better prepare going into future meetings, saying, or recognizing this is where I need to focus on my knowledge or focus on my skill gap, but then be okay with, if I don't know an answer, it's okay not to know an answer. I can still go in and be my authentic self. And then in the third and final example, and this one I think will resonate with probably a lot of other leaders in my space, went into a meeting again, brought one of my team members along to present, and it went bad. It did not go well. The message fell completely and totally flat. It was not at all the outcome that I had hoped for. And so following that meeting, I already walked out the door thinking to myself, oh, that was terrible. That was awful. And so she followed up with me right away. And she didn't ask or say anything or directly address how it went. Instead, she asked, how do you think that went? I already knew how it went. And as much as I didn't want to recognize that it was terrible, I think I actually responded, it sucked. Because it did. It completely sucked.
Call it what it is.
Right. But then I also recognized, and I shared with her, that we obviously went in unprepared and didn't clearly understand what our stakeholders wanted, or much less needed. And so I was able to already working on addressing that. But more importantly, I wanted her to know that my employee was the one that was presenting in that meeting. And I wanted her to know, look, I own that I spent time with my employee preparing for this and really guiding some of the information that was going to be shared in that meeting, assuming that I understood what the message needed to be. And I really wanted to own that with her so that she recognized, hey, this isn't on my employee, this is on me. And once again, I had that chance to do that because she immediately reached out to provide that feedback. But this time her feedback, because I already knew what happened, it really surprised me. Her question back to me at the end, or her statement back to me at the end, was, where can I help? And that just made a world of difference. And I mean, that's just 3 examples of so many others that I could provide. She she not only did that with me, but Tamara also was really good at doing that with the organization. I know for a fact she would regularly reach out to people on Teams. She would call them on Fridays to either recognize something that they did or to provide unsolicited feedback. And so the feedback, by the way, wasn't always, here's something you need to improve on. Sometimes the feedback was, you are doing an amazing job and I want to recognize what you're doing. So actions like that really matter, and it matters more when it's timely and relevant. So leaders keep doing that.
I love that. And so many pieces that I love about that. One is the speed of the feedback.
Yes.
So important. We are all so busy, but you have to pause for just 2 minutes.
Yes.
To check in and give that feedback while that leader's thinking about it, experienced it, because they won't get better.
Correct.
We don't understand unless you give us, actual examples.
Correct.
Of, okay, you did this and this is what happened.
And giving that example in the moment.
In the moment while it's fresh,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
And how she opened up. Are you ready for feedback? Right? Because if you just dive in and that person's not
Maybe
ready
not
yet,
listening.
yeah, like that's not going to go well. So I love that she asked, and then the open-ended questions, right? So what did you think? What do you want to do? Right? And that's also part of learning because it gives you a chance to process. In coaching,
Absolutely.
I ask a lot of questions in coaching, right? When I coach my clients, and that is what it's all about, is to help you process. So love all those pieces.
Yes. She's so good at that.
All right. And obviously the support. We got to mention the support, right? How can I help? How can I help? Always so important how to end.
Correct.
Okay. So we know that a lot of people, and we've all had imposter syndrome.
Yes.
At some point in our lives, multiple times, and it doesn't always end. It's a constant thing if we're really pushing ourselves.
Right.
So how have some leaders helped you when you have felt imposter syndrome?
Oh, I love this question on so many levels. I think the biggest thing that leaders have done to change my perception, but also to help me grow through that, is through sharing their own vulnerability, really being willing to get open and vulnerable about their own experience with imposter syndrome, because then you begin to recognize that, oh, this is universal. So let me kind of give you a little bit of an analogy that helps, I think may help people understand where I'm coming from.
Great.
And this is recent. We all watch the Olympics.
Yes.
And we all see these incredible athletes up on the world stage at the top of their game, and they're competing. I mean, just to get to the Olympics is an accomplishment in itself. And we're seeing them win bronze, silver, gold medals, and all of the glory that they're receiving. But we're not seeing what's happening for them to get there, unless, of course, you're watching NBC, stories like behind the scenes, the journey to the Olympics, the heartfelt stories that are happening there. But otherwise, we're not seeing that they are going through challenge after challenge after challenge to build that resilience to make it to the world stage.
Mm-hmm.
The same exact thing happens with leaders. We see leaders, whether it's their resume or their LinkedIn profile, that says they have this award and these accolades and this title, chief title, executive title. And we sit back and go, how the hell am I going to ever get there? Because I am stuck in this imposter syndrome. And so there have been so many leaders who, whether publicly or privately, have shared their own journey and their own struggle with imposter syndrome. And it makes you realize, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. And it's not just us ladies, it's men and women.
Yes.
It is entirely universal. It doesn't make a difference at what level of your career you're at, that all of us deal and battle with imposter syndrome. So just one, recognition that, oh my gosh, there's other people who are going through this and that have dealt with this and maybe are going through it right now, and they're at what level? It humanizes it.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it helped me internalize my own struggles with it and find a way out. And just recognizing, again, honoring some leaders that have been incredible about opening up with that. Anita Klopfenstein has shared stories, Ryan Talbert, Tamara Faber has shared stories with that. Lori Turpak, Sarisha Mandava. The list could go on. I mean, and many, many more privately have shared stories with me. That the fact that leaders like you and them are willing to do that goes a really long way for anybody that's struggling with imposter syndrome.
Yeah. And some of those leaders that you mention, I know as well. And if you didn't know them, but you saw them, they come across extremely confident.
Absolutely.
Very strong when they're in a room. So for them to admit, yeah, I've had that too.
Yeah.
Right? Like it doesn't, like it's good to show up confident. But the point is that even someone that shows up confident, trust me, they're feeling it.
They're feeling it.
They're feeling it as well.
Yeah.
So that kind of goes to, building trust. And I think when you're building trust and having that empathy with leaders, it's so important.
Absolutely.
And so maybe some examples around that and what others may have done to help you with that or learning how to do that and what it has done for you.
Yes. So building trust is a big one, huge one. And building trust to me goes hand in hand with creating a learning environment, or I think a lot of people call that a learning culture.
Yeah.
David Pollock, recent podcast guest, I have had the pleasure and joy to work with him and for him. And he is extraordinary about creating that learning culture, creating that learning environment. When I first moved into the role that I have today, I worked for him at the time, and I recognized and I knew I had so much to learn. So much to learn. I was out of my element, but I also knew what I was bringing to the table. And I don't remember the specific context of the conversation that we were having, but I remember looking at him and saying, I don't want to fuck. Can I swear? I'm going to swear.
Well,
I don't want to fuck
just
this
did.
up. I said, I don't want to fuck this up. I was really, really worried about failing in that situation. And I think he laughed, of course. I'm exaggerating here a little bit, but no, truly, I said that. And then he just looked at me and he said, I'm not going to let you fail. I won't let you fail. And that struck me because one, it said, I'm not truly, like, I'm not going to let you fail, but it didn't say he wasn't going to let me make mistakes. I made plenty of mistakes. It wasn't saying I'm going to make your decisions for you. I made my decisions and I had to own and stand by my decisions. But what it did say was, if you make a mistake, I'm going to help you learn through what you need to learn through with that. Or if you make a decision that maybe you could have made a different or better decision, let's figure this out and pivot if we need to, but recognize, and I like the term that I've heard before of two-way door or two-way decision or two-way door or one-way door. And so working through that and knowing that, okay, I can have a little bit more confidence in making those decisions. So just those 5 words, I won't let you fail, helped instill a sense of trust and build that trust with me. But then even beyond that, so that's one aspect of it, is I'm going to create an environment where you can learn because I know that you need to learn. But you have to build trust in other ways. And one of the other ways that he was really good at building trust was letting me show up authentically. And there were so many situations where he would provide either feedback for me that either I didn't want to hear but needed to hear, but his delivery was very good. He would listen to ideas and was open to bouncing ideas off of him, but he was really, really open to two-way feedback. So I could provide feedback to him. And there's 2 different circumstances where I got really angry, really angry, viewers, not just angry, really angry. And I think that's the one and only time I've lost my cool like that with a senior leader, no less. And he cut right through the emotion. He saw the point that I was trying to make, and he recognized, this is a change that you're asking me to make in something that he was doing, and he made the change. And he didn't punish me for getting really angry about something. And I, of course, apologized for getting as mad as I did, but he cut right through that and got right to the heart of the matter And it said to me, hey, it's okay if in a one-on-one setting, I show emotions. We're humans. We're not robots. We're all going to show emotions at one time or another. And so I knew that, oh, wow, I can show up the way that I need to show up in an appropriate setting and talk about the things that really need to be talked about, like the phrase that talk about the elephant in the room. I could talk about those things. And so knowing that I had that space to do that with him helped additionally build trust there.
Mm-hmm.
And both the trust building and the creating that learning environment are empowerment in action. And without, we often say we want to empower our leaders. We want everybody to feel empowered, but you can tell me I'm empowered. You're empowered to make a decision. But if I don't feel trusted, or if I don't trust you, if I don't trust that you're going to provide that learning environment or that coaching when maybe I don't make a good decision because you've empowered me to make that decision, I'm not going to be or behave empowered. So it's really, really important. And Dave Pollock was excellent at that.
Love that. Those are great examples. You mentioned the one-way door, the two-way door. For our listeners that may not understand what that means, can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. So I believe this is a Jeff Bezos Amazon thing. Look it up. A two-way door decision is a decision that if you make that decision, you can go back. You can pivot back. It's not the end of the world. And in fact, most decisions are two-way door decisions. There are some decisions that you need to evaluate because it's more of a one-way door. So for example, I'm going to take a new job outside of my company. I'm not going anywhere, company. But if you make a decision like that, that's very likely a one-way door. You're not going to be able to undo that decision. But if you make a decision that says, we're going to go forward with this strategy, that's a two-way door. You can stop, reevaluate, and pivot.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. And it is so important to think about that.
It is.
All right. I want to talk about your authentic self.
Okay.
So something that's very important to me with working with my clients is them showing up as their authentic self.
Yeah.
So can you share some ideas that have helped you bring your authentic self with these leaders?
The examples really point to the leadership behaviors that allowed me to be authentic. So
Great.
Let me provide some examples to kind of explain that. So back to Tamara Faber. Tamara Faber would intentionally bring other people along with her. And so, for example, if you were leading an initiative and you, not necessarily her direct report or her direct of directs, it could be anybody, she would take you to the senior team or to the board of directors to present. And she would, of course, prep you, but she'd give you that opportunity to be challenged, to be in the hot seat. But she would prepare with you and not ask you to change who you are, but just so that you knew what to expect. So she wasn't directing like, say it like this, or do it like this, or show up like this. No, she was just helping you grow as yourself as a leader and help you learn how to be yourself in that space with more senior level leaders or more tenured leaders.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one really good example that I kind of lean on. Another one is when leaders are willing to share the spotlight.
Yes.
So more recently, and viewers, you may know, and you might know Tracy Ann Palmer. She
might be a co-host on this podcast.
Just might be. But she doesn't talk about this, but she does this. She's willing to share the spotlight. And again, recognizing that she's giving the spotlight or sharing the spotlight with you as yourself and honoring who you are. So recently, she invited me to co-host basically a podcast with her, co-present on a podcast. And, when she invited me, I'm thinking, oh, this is cool. I'll talk for 5 minutes and add my little anecdote. Oh, no. She gave me half the time. She didn't tell me that ahead of time till like 4 days before, which is good. But she gave me half of the airtime. And this was something that I knew was really, really important for the next step in her career. And I wanted to show up, but she wasn't asking me to be different. She was asking me to show up exactly as I am and just be my authentic kind of weird self.
Yes.
Right.
And it was a great webinar. It was a great webinar that you guys did, for sure.
Fun. So that's an example, but there's another leader too, who I won't name him by name, but when I was first making my career pivot into IT, from day one, I think I recognized that, okay, I can be pretty authentic with him. First day I meet him, he doesn't know me. I don't know him. I'm already accepted the role to go work for him. He knows I don't have an IT background, and we're just sitting having a good conversation around what the work is that I was going to do, what he was expecting, asking what I expected. And at some point in the conversation, I looked at him and said, look, don't let me get bored. And he kind of took it back, okay, and didn't quite know how to take that. And so I just started laughing. I said, let me explain what I mean by that. I'm not saying I want to sit back and do nothing. What I am saying is I like to be challenged. I don't like repetitive work. And he listened. And I walked in day one into that role, and he says, oh, by the way, we're going to have you lead this thing, this goal team or effort or whatever it was. And it was across the entire IT department. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, you're going to let me, and not just like no micromanagement there. He was starting to understand who I was, and they were just, as I am, we trust you to lead this. And so I got to kind of take the reins on that effort, and they really, really did let me lead it authentically, where they're letting me make decisions to change things and go in a different direction. And that leader was really, really good about doing that again and again and again.
Mm-hmm.
So great, great, great example.
Yeah. And what I love about really almost every example that you gave today so far is it is about the leader stepping to the side or making an opportunity available to you to help you get the experience that you need
every time.
And yeah, in order to move forward, because if you don't get that experience, you can't move forward.
Correct.
And so it's so important for senior leaders to remember to pause and say, do I really need to be doing this work myself?
Correct.
Or can I step to the side and have somebody else do it, have somebody else show up in my place? And there are times that when I was leading, I did not go to a meeting, not because I was actually busy, but because I wanted to let that other leader have the space to show up in that. So there's intentional times that you do things like that. And it's so important.
There are. And when senior leaders like you and all of these others and many, many more are doing that, it begins to teach the more mid-level leaders or even brand new leaders, oh, I don't have to try to be in the spotlight all the time because I need the FaceTime or I need to showcase what I can do. It's taught me to do the same thing. And that goes to say with all of the things that we've talked about today, that it teaches me how to be a leader like that and learn how to lead in the same way, because I see the impact that it's had, just not just on me, but on others.
Yeah.
And so it's, pardon the pun, but it's those leadership moments just like that, where leaders are willing to step aside and care more about the people that they're leading. You might not be able to measure that with tangible results, but you will definitely see an outcome from that.
Yeah. Well, there's our commercial right there for our podcast. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. My pleasure.
All right. There's that sound. It is time for some fun questions. Are you ready?
All right. I'm ready.
All right. The first question is, what is your favorite sound?
So my favorite sound, and I'm going to cheat a little bit here, is what I like to say the sound of summer. It's that symphony of sound that starts at the beginning of summer when I always never know how to say this, the cicadas.
Yes.
Sorry. The cicadas start at the beginning of summer, and then later into the evening that turns into the crickets and the grasshoppers going. And then later into the evening that gets quiet. And if you're still awake and you have the windows open, You can sometimes hear the hoot of an owl or something like that. And then in the early morning, that turns into the birds chirping. And then that sound progresses as you go through the summer to where all of a sudden it's just kind of the late summer. You get the grasshoppers going. And then sometimes in the early morning, you get the sound of the raccoons, they have this chirping noise. It's just, it transitions through the summer, and it's just, I love that sound.
That's awesome. That was like a 30-second guided meditation type of Zen. I love it because I could hear all of it as you were saying. It was
podcast
wonderful.
Coming soon.
It was wonderful. All right, next question. If you could instantly become an expert in something, what would it be?
As I'm looking at your window, I'm thinking immediately gardening, and not just landscape gardening. I have a love and a passion for landscape gardening. I have a love-hate relationship with it because I'm really good at killing some things, but I excel at other plants. But vegetable gardening, I'm sort of afraid to start a vegetable garden because I've done so much reading on it. There's a lot of trial and error that comes with it. Everybody can grow a tomato, but I want to grow more than tomatoes. I want to really be able to have that summer garden and then can things, and I'm afraid of the learning curve. I want to put it in the ground and grow it and eat it and have an abundant harvest and not have to let things die and use pesticides. And so if I could immediately understand how to garden and have an amazing harvest every year, I would want to do that.
Yeah. What would one of your leaders tell you to do about that?
Probably just start and not be perfect from the start.
Just
start somewhere.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
Right. Just grow a tomato plant.
There you go. All right, before you leave, we could take you out through our garden.
Okay.
We have some good stuff. It's been my husband. It hasn't been me. Real talk.
Thank you, husband.
Well, Christine, thank you so much for your time today.
Welcome.
Really appreciate it. I'm hoping that, one, if you're a leader striving to improve your career, make sure you're listening. Make sure you're taking those opportunities that other leaders are giving you to learn and grow and just try things. And as a senior leader, please take these experiences and remind yourself what you can do for others as you're working through it.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that concludes another episode of Leadership Moments. We hope you found inspiration and valuable insights in what we shared today. Remember, leadership is not defined solely by titles or positions, but by the choices we make and the moments that shape us.
Embrace the challenges that come your way, for they may be the very moments that propel you toward greatness. We'd love to hear your thoughts and stories as well. Connect with us on our website at leadershipmomentspodcast.com or through social media on Instagram at Tracy_Ann Palmer.
And Stacy Castor _. Remember, your leadership moment could be just around the corner, waiting for you to seize it. This is Stacy Castor, and what doesn't challenge you won't change you.
And this is Tracy Ann Palmer. And be the change you wish to see in the world.